Every single great empire in recorded history collapsed in exactly the same way. Rome, the Spanish Empire, France under Louis XIV, the British Empire that once covered a quarter of the planet, they all followed the identical 7-stage script that British General Sir John Glubb documented in 1951 after studying 4,000 years of history. And right now, in November 2025, the United States of America is 249 years old and deep into Stage 6. Stage 7, total systemic collapse, is no longer a question of if. The data, the math, and the historical parallels all point to the narrow window of 2026 to 2029. When that final stage hits, between 90 and 95% of all paper-based wealth, stocks, bonds, pensions, cash in the bank, gets reset, just like it has every single time for the last 2,000 years. But 7 specific asset classes have survived every single one of those resets. Some of them exploded in value by 1,000, 3,000, even 15 million%, while everything else burned to zero. In the next 20 minutes, you're going to discover exactly what those 7 assets are. The undeniable historical proof that they work, real-world examples from Rome to Weimar to 1970s America, and most importantly, the exact percentages you need to own of each before 2026 if you want to come out with the other side wealthier instead of wiped out. Let's start with the pattern itself, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sir John Glubb found that empires last roughly 250 years, 10 generations, and always collapse in 7 distinct stages. Stage 1 is the age of pioneers, raw courage, sacrifice, people willing to die for an idea. That was America 1776 to about 1800. Stage 2 is the age of conquests, explosive military expansion. Think Manifest Destiny, the Spanish-American War, World War II. Stage 3 is the age of commerce, factories, railroads, explosive wealth creation. That was the 1950s and early 60s golden age everyone still romanticizes. Stage 4 is the age of affluence. Everyone feels rich, McMansions, stock market booms, easy credit. That was the 1980s through the late 1990s. Stage 5 is the age of intellect and decadence. Universities multiply, art becomes strange, selfishness and short-term thinking take over. We've been living in Stage 5 since roughly 2000. Stage 6 is the age of debt and welfare. The government borrows trillions to keep the population pacified, while the elite extract the last wealth. That is exactly where we are right now in 2025. Stage 7 is collapse, military defeat, currency failure, or both. History says we are one presidential term away from that beginning. Here are the red flags that are impossible to ignore anymore. National debt just crossed $38.4 trillion. Annual interest payments alone are now over $1 trillion, more than we spend on national defense. We maintain 750 military bases in 80 countries, while our own bridges, dams, and power grid are graded C- by the American Society of Civil Engineers. Social trust is lower than it was in 1859, the year before the Civil War. The Congressional Budget Office itself projects that by 2033, interest payments will eat 100% of all tax revenue. That is not sustainable. That is the mathematical definition of Stage 6. So what actually survives when an empire enters Stage 7? Asset number 1, physical gold in your possession or allocated in a vault you control. Central banks bought more gold in the last 3 years than any period since Richard Nixon closed the gold window in 1971. China has more than doubled its official reserve since 2018. Russia tripled theirs. Poland, Turkey, India. Every single one is hoarding gold at a record pace. Why? Because they can read history. In Weimar Germany 1923, 1 single ounce of gold bought an entire city block in Berlin when the Reichsmark went to 0. In the 1970s, while the stock market went nowhere for a decade after inflation, gold rose over 2,200%. When Rome collapsed in the West, the senators who fled with a few pounds of gold lived like kings in Constantinople. Those who trusted Roman coins starved. Asset number 2, productive farmland and timberland that generates calories, fiber, or energy. People need to eat 365 days a year, no matter who is emperor. During the Great Depression, farmers who owned clear land ate while city dwellers stood in bread lines. U.S. farmland has delivered over 11% compounded real return since 1970, beating stocks during every inflationary decade. British aristocratic families who owned land in 1914 kept their wealth through 2 world wars and the collapse of the pound, while London stock portfolios were obliterated. Asset number 3, real estate in the handful of jurisdictions that have stayed stable for centuries, Switzerland, Singapore, Liechtenstein, certain Austrian and Norwegian valleys, During the Weimar hyperinflation, the German industrialists who quietly bought Swiss chalets and apartments in Zurich in 1921 to 22 kept 100% of their purchasing power while everyone else lost everything. Swiss residential real estate has never had a single 10-year period of negative real returns in over 120 years of recorded data. Asset number 4, physical cash in the world's hardest currency, Swiss francs. The Swiss franc is the only major currency that appreciated against every collapsing currency of the 20th century. The Reichsmark, the pound sterling in the 1940s, the dollar in the 1970s. You can hold it as 1,000-franc notes outside the banking system. Asset number 5, Bitcoin. The first asset in human history that no government can inflate or seize without your private keys. From 6 cents in 2010 to where it sits today, a 15 million% increase, 21 million hard cap. Mathematically provable scarcity exists completely outside the legacy financial system. When countries ban it or try to confiscate it, it just moves to friendlier jurisdictions. Exactly like gold did for 2,000 years. Asset number 6, physical silver. Currently at a 90-to-1 ratio to gold, the most undervalued it has been in 5,000 years of recorded history. During the 1970s stagflation crisis, silver went up over 3,500% at its peak. Industrial demand is exploding because of solar panels and electric vehicles, while mine supply is flat. Asset number 7, the ultimate unconfiscatable asset, yourself. Skills that produce value anywhere on Earth. Multiple languages, trade certifications, networks that span borders, second and third passports. Residency in stable jurisdictions. Mobility. The Roman elite who spoke Greek and had estates in the Eastern Empire survived the fall of Rome. Those who only knew Latin and stayed in Italy did not. Here is the allocation that has survived every single historical reset we have records for. 15 to 25% in physical precious metals, mostly gold, some silver. 15 to 20% in Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related infrastructure. 20 to 30% in productive farmland, timberland, or agricultural operating companies. 10 to 15% in Swiss franc cash and real estate in the most stable foreign jurisdictions. The remainder in human capital, second passports, and the ability to relocate on short notice. That allocation is not theory. It is the composite of what the wealthiest families of Rome, Venice, Amsterdam, and London actually did when their empires entered stage 7, updated for the 21st century. The clock is ticking faster than most people realize. Stage 7 is not survival with 100% of your wealth in stocks, bonds, or fiat dollars. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And right now, the rhyme is getting louder every single day. Comment below, which of these 7 assets are you starting to add first? Hit the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss the next video where I reveal the exact moves I'm personally making with my own portfolio before 2026 arrives.